I want to talk in this next section about how leaders need to respond versus managers that react. So if you're someone that wants to be a leader, and these are the skills that you're learning the foundations of it, one of the things you need to do is learn how to respond to things rather than reacting. And often we only react because of it could be emotional, we might not like the situation, the thing that we're reacting to is because we're directly responsible. But a true leader has learned how to respond to it. So I want to give you a couple of techniques here that you can use that become very powerful. I've been using these for years, and they're very powerful to not only increase your leadership skills, but to give you the ability to lead others in such a powerful way, to lead by example as well. Just let me tell you, I'm just going to tell you a little bit of a story of I was once heading to a conference, and it was on a 6-lane highway, and I remember there wasn't a lot of traffic on that day, but because I think it was a Saturday morning heading to do a day's seminar, and I was heading up to the traffic lights. It was about 3 cars back and the lights went red, and so I stopped. So it was about 3 cars back from the lights. But I noticed something. I noticed that there was these commotion going on a little bit with the cars in front of me, and there was 2 young boys, probably about 9 or 10, on bikes that were riding across the pedestrian in front of the lights. And one of them had this bag hanging down off his handlebars. And it must have had a hole in the bag because these little bread rolls just kept falling out as he's riding along. And it was about halfway along he realized that all these bread rolls were all the way back. And his friend was really embarrassed with everyone looking, so he took off to the other side of the road. But this guy thought, he got off his bike and he was trying to stop the rolls from coming out of the bag, but at the same time, he was trying to put the thing on his bike to make it stable. And it kept dropping. He was trying to grab the rolls and put them back in the bag, and it kept dropping, and it was difficult for him. But and it was interesting because all the people were looking and smiling, and in one way I know it's not funny, but they were kind of like enjoying the moment of this kind of funny, almost like where's candid camera there, with all these rolls up on the street. But before anyone could get out and help, and of course I wanted to as well, what happened was the lights changed to green, and as soon as they did, I saw something I'd never seen before in my life. I saw all these people in the cars in front of me and even on the other side of the road just change completely from just kind of enjoying what they were seeing to then, as soon as the light was green, they started beeping their horn, trying to get the boy out of the way. He got more panicky and left the rolls there, got on his bike, pushed it to the other side. As he was pushing on the other side, a car came through the lights on the other side, was beeping its horn and swearing at him and getting upset at him. And I'm thinking, why is all this happening? Anyway, he ended up his friend went down the street and ran away. He went with him, and they got out of there real quick and left the rolls. People were just driving over them. And I remember driving along thinking, what? And I thought about this for at least another hour, like why? And it was bugging me all day through the conference as well that I was running. And so I spent a bit of time just thinking, why was that happening? Why was there such a change? And I felt a sense almost in my own spirit that really what was happening was that it was about reacting and responding. That when it wasn't to do with us, we were like responding. All of us were enjoying it, and not enjoying, but it was kind of funny, and we wanted to get out and help. And so we were responding to the situation. We weren't upset, we were wanting to help, if anything else. Yet as soon as the lights changed from red to green, it's like our focus, instead of being out there to help or what was happening, our focus all of a sudden changed to us. So it was a self-focus. And at that point, we got to get somewhere, we got to get through the lights, we've got these things to do, that we totally ignored the outer aspect of what was going on and our environment and the 2 kids. And we thought about us, but in thinking about that, we started to react. People were, as I said, were swearing. One did the bird out the window. There was all sorts of things, horns honking. And so our human behavior changes, and this is what I developed from that, and I'm trying to teach you as a leader, is that a key foundational leadership principle is that it depends on our focus and what we're doing with our focus. If we're focused on outside and on others, we can tend to respond better and help and jump in and make things, solve problems, solve opportunities, find opportunities, and just help the crisis. But if we are focused inwardly and we're always focused on us, that when things aren't working, we react. We can react emotionally, we can react with stress, we can react in our minds, we can react to people in the way we communicate. But as soon as we self-focus and get in there, there's more of a reaction. Where if we're out of focus on others and helping others and doing other things outside of us, we're going to respond more and we're going to be more productive. So the whole react-respond is quite a powerful thing as leaders. I've seen a lot of managers react but true leaders will respond. And I want to give you that's the key. If you've found at any time you've reacted to things, then what you've got to start to learn is how do you change your focus so that you can start to focus out onto things rather than the inward and the self-focus, how you can focus on other things. So I'm going to give you a couple of techniques here of how you can start to do that, and how I've taught this to thousands in such a way that they've started to do it as well. And so how do you direct your focus? How do you change that focus? You can Google this in any way and find so many years of study, but when I first learned this, it was a pretty new concept. It was at least about 30 years ago, and it was a concept of there's a gland in the base of our brain, right at the base of our brain, and it's called the RAS, or the reticular activating system. And it's a filter that sits in the base of our brain, and it's there on purpose. It filters everything that's happening to us into our brain, and it has to filter it according to what's dominant in the sense of our consciousness. If we thought of everything, every sense that we're feeling, everything we see, everything we're hearing, everything we're thinking, if we pour all that into our brain, guess what happens? It starts to stress. So that's why that system is there. As I said, you can Google this and you'll get all sorts of different analysis and scientific research on it. But it is this gland that filters into our brain to protect our brain so our brain doesn't blow up. It would take in too much information in too many different ways. So it focuses and lets into our brain what is our dominant thought. Let me give you a practical example of that. How many of you have ever gone to buy a new car, or maybe a new used car at some point? I don't know about you, but when I have done that, I see more of those cars on the road. Isn't that crazy? Why is that happening? I didn't see them before. I mean, was the car dealer psychic and they're going, hey, Alan wants that new car, throw that car to that roundabout, send that car to that roundabout, send it to where he goes to work, and he's just going to see them all? No, that's not happening. What's happening is that because I'm thinking upon it, I'm thinking upon that type of car, I activate my RAS to then allow those dominant thoughts into my brain, so I start to see them. Those new cars have always been there, but I'm noticing them more. Now, if you can understand that technique and that principle that works in your body and how you've been created that way, that really what you can start to do is use that for your focus. So if you constantly are thinking about that won't work, that's bad, my staff are bad, they never follow me, I can't achieve that, that's impossible, you're going to activate this RAS to see those types of situations. If you can learn to retrain your thoughts and rethink upon the opportunities and things that might be possible, but maybe they're possible, and start to think is what if this can work, what if that can work, you start to retrain and activate your RAS to see new cars that weren't there before, new opportunities that you wouldn't see before. Leadership skills can be used in this way to change so many problems in the workplace or in a business to become opportunities. I've even had people that in one way are almost impossible. When I've come in to do a major change management or culture change in a large company, I'll always get 5 or 6 out of every 20 or 30 or 50 that go, oh, that will never work, we've done that before. I can't change them, but what I can do is I can start to instill different things, different assignments, different goals, different purposes, different visions, as I mentioned before, that can start to inspire and motivate. Remember, we talked about that before, to inspire and motivate them to operate a new RAS thought for them, so it might start to change. Because in reality, if they keep telling themselves we've done that before, it'll never work, that's actually what they see. They see through that the things that won't work. Where people like us, as leaders, we can go higher and start to see how it can work because we've changed our thought patterns and therefore our attitudes that it can work. And we can then start to operate and help them change their RAS and start to see new cars they didn't see before. I'll talk more about that in another leadership course called Empowering Leadership, into great depth with that of how to empower people. But it's a powerful principle to be able to use. And so you're actually teaching people how to see the new cars that have always been there, but they didn't see them before. In other words, opportunities and different things, even about themselves. You'd be surprised at how many people I've led that have self-doubt about different things according to their thinking. And when you train them to rethink that maybe this is possible, yes, they could do it, they actually start to see the opportunities and then will achieve it and will start to try different things that they wouldn't have tried before. See, leaders use this RAS. Some of them don't even know they're doing that. Entrepreneurial type leaderships are using it all the time and seeing opportunities. And that's why I say to leaders, and I'll say to you as well, don't share too much if you have a lot of vision ahead, unless it's a vision that can be used with the RAS, because a lot of people won't see that. You need to start training them through their thoughts. So leaders are futuristic, so you need to be thinking futuristic, not just your visions, but great opportunities. I love thinking of things that are impossible so that they can eventually be possible and find ways. I mean, today I'm using an iPhone and text messaging and things and talking to people that's going through the air that back when I was younger was only on Star Trek as being an impossible thing. You know, you could flip and you could talk to the spaceship. That was crazy then, but today it's not impossible, it's possible, and everyone's doing it. So we need to understand that this is the true principle of leadership, of responding rather than reacting. We start to think differently on situations. Leaders have visions. Leaders don't see things the way other people do because of this principle, because of their seeing different ways, because of their focus. They're not focused on them and the problems and the situations. They're focused on how can they create opportunities, how can they respond, how can they fix things up without getting reactive, but through responding. So a couple of other principles to go along with this. One, you need to start learning how to, and I call it, take your thoughts captive. Bring them in. Sometimes my thoughts are running everywhere. I need to bring them in, take them captive, and I need to make them obedient to what I'm wanting people to do. What I want are my visions and my assignments that I've been given. What are they? And the other thing is that leaders, for you, you need to think upon successful things. Read success books, read biographies of leaders that have been successful. Start to think upon those things, of great things that can be achieved. Start to renew your mind. Stop having it the same way. It was almost like brainwashing in a good way. Start to renew it. Start to renew the thoughts so that you can be thinking about the things you want to think upon. Start to see new cars. Start to see things that are out there that maybe you never saw before but were always there. But just like me, as soon as I activated that with the car, I started to see more of them. Also start to have opportunities that have always been there, but now you start to see it through. So I'm going to give you another little exercise. What I want you to do is I want you to identify leaders in your life that you've had, that you've really respected, that demonstrate this trait that they just see opportunities and they identified them and went after them. And they might not be leaders that you even know. They could be, it could be someone like a Bill Gates and you really think they've got a great leadership style and they operate in this leadership skill. It could be someone that's from history that's not even alive right now. I want you to identify someone. And then what I want you to do is I want you to write down what you think their traits are that you admire and to do with this in the sense of how they respond to things rather than react. One of the greatest men that inspires me, and I never met him, of course not, but Winston Churchill and Alexander the Great, both of them inspire me because of the opportunities that they saw that no one else saw. Winston Churchill was amazing of how in defeat and war he could see opportunities to win, and he came up with strategies because of the way he operated his RAS towards the opportunities that could be seen that no one else could see. That's why he was such a great prime minister in the wartime and was a great leader towards winning that war. So what are those traits? And then the last thing I want you to write down is is it about those traits that you want? What are you wanting? What traits about them do you want to increase in your life as a leader? This is very foundational, yet probably one of the most powerful tools I've used as a leadership skill throughout my life in leading people and within business, is learning about that perception of leaders will respond if the perception and focus is outside of themselves, where the ones that react, it's all about them and their focus is inside. So how do you change that? How do you change your thought patterns? How do you start thinking and changing your expectations and changing your perceptions like we talked before? And how do you change that when they don't meet in the gap that I mentioned before? That's how you start to use the RAS. And I want you to start using that and start practicing it and see how many new things you start to see. Write down the things that you start to see. But it comes from renewing the mind and rethinking, putting new thoughts, seeing new things. I read success magazines all the time, different businesses, and learning from what they've done because I'm putting my thoughts in here and inputting that in to activate my RAS so I can see those things. So hopefully this has inspired you, and I want to motivate you to do those tasks of jotting those things down and start to operate this. Start to change your thoughts, start to put the right thoughts in, and start to change your RAS so you will start seeing opportunities that managers never see, other leaders never see, but you'll start to see because of your leadership skills enhancing. Thank you.